Afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for the FY24 budget deliberations. It's June 27, 2023. The time is 3 p.m. I'm calling this meeting to order. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none. Our item is continuation of FY24 budget briefs, and our finance director, Brandy Falcon.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Brandy Falcon for the record. This shouldn't be a very long meeting, but I still wanted to take the opportunity to get updated numbers in front of you, as well as provide an opportunity for any discussion, additional cuts, or questions that you may have. So starting off with a preliminary summary, I've made updates since our meeting last week, some small changes and cuts from last week, and then also inputting the revenues from community development's fee increases. So at a 3% tax increase, we are $292,000 ahead in revenues. And then I wanted to go to the personnel summary first and just touch on some of the open items that we have. First of all of the assessors' personnel requests, I have cut one of them. They emailed me during the week to cut one of the conversion requests. The rest of them, I wanted to know, are we ready to make a decision on any of those based on discussions that we may have had with the assessor?
I had a discussion with the assessor, and that was part of the reason you got that request. And everything else that we discussed that's in the budget, it makes sense to me, and so I don't have a problem with it.
Were you able to get metrics for the customer service technician?
Well, we talked a little bit about that. I don't remember us giving like specific metrics. Mr. Assessor? I know we talked about the need for it and it made sense, but as far as specific metrics.
Yes, Commissioners, I did present to you a PowerPoint on paper, and that did list and consist of the metrics that are the specific work product of the customer service technician. So it was things like tax cancellations, it was things like trusts received, trust letters sent. It is specifically the work efforts of that individual, the one individual we have there now. So that if I'm going off of memory, but I believe there were about 6 to 7 metrics that I presented to you. One of them was also the last one was the, I'm trying to remember what we labeled it as, pay, it was refunds to the effect of the work effort that is ordinarily done by the technician. It's basically investigative research into whether or not individuals should have the homeowner's exemption. For example, you might have a property that's owned by somebody who actually lives in California, but they have a homeowner's exemption, and through investigative efforts, there results in a refund back to the county.
Yeah, as I recall, it was a document that you printed out, and it actually showed an org chart of how the assessor's office used to be, and it had this position, and that position got eliminated. And so the assessor is requesting that position back, largely because the volume, and we looked at the volume of the transactions, if that's what you're referring to.
And those are the metrics, yes.
I was thinking of the metrics of an individual.
Oh, no.
No, this is the metrics of the office. So yes, I do remember, and it does make sense.
All right. So then what is the position, Brandy, that has been cut?
So are you all good approving all of the assessor's personnel requests then, based on that?
Yeah, but can you tell me which conversion was
which
cut?
conversion one? Yeah, you're not going to see it on the one that I handed you today. I already took it
already
out.
gone.
It was
Okay.
position 112-014.
Okay. I trust your judgment on this, so I'm fine with it.
But we
Bill?
went through it.
Okay, so I'm going to mark all of the assessor's requests then down as approved. I got a call from the airport today that they're going to rescind their request for a additional airport operations specialist, so I am going to cut that from the budget, but I did want to bring that to your attention in case you wanted to discuss on that.
No.
Okay, so you're familiar with it, you know why they cut it?
I think it has to do with some of the stuff we talked about before with the shuffling of people around.
Gotcha.
So,
Okay,
yeah.
totally fine.
And then last week you had directed that the coroner kind of split well, first we added a full FTE request for the coroner, based on direction from the board last week. So I've added that here. It's a loaded cost of $83,904. So I just would like confirmation that you're all okay having that in the budget.
I think if he needs it, we need to do it.
This is mid-year?
It's
No.
going to be for FY24, so it'll be
entire year.
effective in October.
It would be a wash, except airports restricted funds.
Yeah.
So, and it's reflected already in our summary, correct?
Yes, I have it in your personnel summary.
I'm sorry, in the preliminary
Yes,
summary.
yes.
Yep.
So if you're okay with that, okay, mark that as a yes. And then you had also talked about splitting their request for on-call pay between on-call and overtime, since they're a little unique and some of their staff cannot qualify for overtime. So they have a request for, a loaded request of $1,100 for overtime. And then down below, their on-call pay, they asked if they could increase it to $5,000. Because after the meeting, we spoke, they ran some numbers, and they felt that the hours that are on call versus the hours that are going to be overtime between the staff they have, that's what they felt they were going to need for the year. So I just wanted to put that before you again and see if you were still wanting to approve that.
I was not ready to continue the on-call pay conversation yet, but
We can push that off. I'm fine with it. I mean, I certainly have brought myself up to speed with it.
okay.
Okay, and then the Hayden positions, I think, are just still on hold for now until we begin that conversation with them. We said on-call is still on hold. The RMO positions are still on hold. We're waiting on that grants process. Okay, I think that was all for a budget. I forgot to tell you, on the preliminary summary, I updated these wage numbers to include the cost of, there's like 5 employees in the county that fixing steps would cause compression, so there's about 5 employees that would have to be raised additionally. So that this includes that cost for compression, and it includes the cost of giving the deputies and command staff their steps on their anniversary dates on their new matrix.
Okay.
So, let's see. Oh, and then just a small B budget item. I don't have a number for you yet, but in the auditor's office, our check printer is dying. So IT agreed to buy us a new check printer, and they went ahead and bought a backup one. But we are gonna have to budget for the consumables for that printer in our budget, but we're waiting for IT to give us that number. When we have it, I'll have to come back to you to get that added to our budget, because that is new.
Okay, so that would be B budget, but then IT will need non-capital?
They're buying the printers in FY23.
Oh,
But the consumables going forward for FY24 will have to get added to the auditor budget.
okay.
So those are the only smaller items that I wanted to show you today. Is there any other cuts or discussion that you wanted to have?
We have an addition.
Pardon
We
me?
have an addition.
Oh, in addition, yes.
On Sheriff, may I be heard on some sheriff personnel items?
Yeah, well,
Chair?
can we just, we'll finish this. Do you want to add that now today, or do you want to?
Up to you. If you
We
want to
can have
add
the-
it July 14th, that's fine, but
Well, how about if we just have the discussion just to think about for the July 14th, if that's all
We
right?
can do that.
And that was, that, it looks like the budget is really, it's coming in okay. I would think probably compared to previous years. And we do have a couple of, discretionary items that are not state mandated. So, with that in mind, perhaps we could look at, instead of a solid cutting for some of those items, that we consider a step down for that. And, as an example, one of those would be the Coeur d'Alene Economic Development Corporation.
so last year I had suggested that we fund them at half to get them prepared for lower county funding. And so I still feel the same way as far as to cut a community partner with no warning, which I would think they would have listened to me last year, but I didn't have any support. So then yes, I would still be in favor of saying they would get funded half of last year, and then next year we would make that decision to, take away all the funding potentially, depending on circumstances.
Based upon how the numbers come in next year. So, Commissioner Brooks?
I feel like they were warned last year that it would be gone this year.
Yeah.
So I think they had plenty of time to adjust there.
Okay, well, fair enough. We can continue that conversation. So, okay.
So we're not going to add today, we're just,
You'll decide later?
Yes.
How much you want to cut it?
Well, it's not in here right now, right?
correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we would reduce 292 by essentially 22,000-ish, so.
You would reduce it? I
Well-
thought you said it wasn't being budgeted right now.
It's not in there right now.
Correct, it's not in there.
Oh, I see what
So
you're
our
saying.
surplus of 292 would go down by 22,500 if we get that.
If you
specific.
added it back into the budget.
Correct, if we add it back in.
Okay.
Yep, so we'll
If.
continue to think about it and
Okay.
then give you a final decision on July 14th.
Okay.
All right. All right, and that's all you had?
Yep, anything else? I think the sheriff had something.
Right, so Bill, do you have anything? And Bruce, do you have
No.
anything? Okay. Sheriff?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Chair. In previous meetings with the board, we had conversations regarding longevity. And I believe if we have an opportunity to really fix our patrol matrix so we stay competitive and have parity in this very, very difficult market to attract police officers and deputy sheriffs, I'd like to continue to have that conversation on longevity if the board feels like they have an appetite for it.
Do you have numbers to present?
Brandy, do you have numbers?
I've done a rough calculation, and the matrix is still under review with the sheriff's office. Right now, to incorporate the longevity pay, kind of at the tiers that the sheriff's office asked for, would be about $297,000. That could fluctuate a little bit, depending on when how the matrix shakes out.
Thoughts?
I think that we should try to fix as much as we can this year. And this kind of goes back to the prioritizing of where, the county should focus its efforts. And that has to do with whether it's internally or with these non-state mandated services. And if we're going to make a decision between the two, I'd rather try to fix this than look at these outside entities. I think if anything, it would be worthwhile to try to hone in on those numbers, so we really know what we're talking about, because we're very close, it seems like, to what we have with a surplus right now, or at least the way it's presented as is.
And I was hoping to make more cuts so we could only have a 2% tax increase. Oh, well. I
Okay, so
guess
I'll
you're
move
bringing-
forward then, working with the sheriff's office to finalize what kind of matrix they would like to see with longevity pay. And I definitely think by our next meeting on July 14th, we should be able to present final numbers
Okay.
on that to you, if you would all like to see that.
Yeah, and just one other comment too, is, at least just from my perspective, and hopefully the board kind of sees it a little bit this way, is that let's make it one and done. Let's address the issues and let's not have to revisit them for quite some time. And this seems to be an approach that goes in that direction. Because if we end up dealing with this issue again next year for just these add-ons that we haven't that we haven't addressed or haven't considered, then it comes across as a perpetual ask. And what we're really trying to do is fix the problem.
My experience is the problem doesn't get fixed because you have collective bargaining agreements with other local entities, and so that continues the,
Well, there's no question about it. It'll never remain static for any length of time. But at least creating the framework of making something that that hopefully the sheriff's office can live with for quite some time. And that's the expectation. And then it's just a matter of adjustments to the entire matrix as opposed to, redoing the matrix or adding these additional little fees here and there.
And was there any progress made on the certifications and that discussion? You were going to work with the sheriff?
Well, I had talked with the sheriff about that and the staff, and yes, there were places where you could have professional standards that would be met that would be included with each of the steps.
Okay.
As far as a certification from like Post or something like that, I don't think that could work given the nature of the kind of hours you have to put in, and sometimes it takes more years than the 5-year matrix.
And we have tabulated those and are prepared to send those to HR per your request.
Yeah, because I'd like to see a whole package by July 14th, because it does seem like we've been piecemealing for the last 2 months. So.
Well, conceptually, yes, I agree with that. But I do think all the pieces are moving in the right direction with respect to that component.
All right.
That's all I have.
All right. Let's see. I guess there's public comment. Anybody on the line? Anybody on TV? No? Okay. 3:17 meeting adjourned. Thank you all.